Michelle Mitchell is a teacher and a founder of a charity devoted to teenagers, and this is her guide that she's written after speaking with many teenagers and their parents. Michelle, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Richard.
Oh dear, it takes you back, the stuff. Yes, I can remember pretty vaguely what it was like to be a teenager. Can you tell me, first of all, what kind of a teenage girl you were like, Michelle?
Oh, dear. Well, at the time I thought I was the most horrible child around, but after 12 years of working with teenagers, I found out that it was a lot worse than I was. So I don't feel so bad anymore.
I like you. You've got a fair bit of compassion for them, and I think they deserve it too, because it's a horrible time. It's kind of romanticised as this period where it's supposed to be like, the movie Grease, isn't it? In fact, it's a really painful, self-conscious, horrible period most of the time, isn't it?
I agree. I think that's just an excellent way to describe it, and I think that's why I do have so much compassion for it. Teenagers often feel like they need protecting from themselves. They feel out of control, and there's so much happening and changing in their lives, and I think they rely more heavily on their parents than their parents even realise.
A friend of mine who was a psychologist I used to speak with regularly on my evening program I was doing one, said that teenagers gravitate to the point of greater acceptance, not the point of greatest love. What do you think of that? Which is why they often gravitate to their peers. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. I think it's really smart, a good way to think of it. Look, teenagers want to look independent in front of their parents. They want them to think that they already know everything and they don't need them. And they want to look cool in front of their friends. And oftentimes between those two masks that they wear, who they really are gets shoved to the background. And they are quite desperate sometimes to find someone who will listen to what they really think and feel about life.
When you wrote the book, how many girls did you speak to?
Oh, look, probably this book is really a collection of the last 12 years. I've started to realise there's some really common themes and things that teenage girls weren't telling their parents. And these were a collection of 7 of those things that really stood out to me as being some of the most important for parents to know.
Let's go through some of them. Some of the most important things that they don't tell their parents. When you say that, are they things that they want their parents to figure out without being told? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a great way of saying it. I think that's really true. I was actually speaking to a mum this morning who was a really difficult teenager herself, and she actually ran away from home when she was 15 and ended up on the streets for a while. And she said in her heart her greatest cry was for her mum to protect her. Yet, what was coming out of her mouth is that she wanted freedom and wanted to do her own thing, but what was going on inside was 2 totally different things.
I want to run a couple of, because these are feature in your book, just a couple of few typical teenage daughter comments by you and just get your suggestions on how to respond with them. How about, let's go right off the bat. I hate you. What about that one? When your teenage daughter says, I hate you.
I hate you. You're the worst mother in the world. You're a freak. You don't let me do anything. A beautiful line a dad told me not long ago. He said to his daughter, I don't have the right to hate you. You're driving me crazy right now. You're frustrating me no end, but I can't say I hate you back. You're my daughter. It's my job to love you. It's my job to be your parent, and that's not going to change no matter what you do. So I thought that was a great one.
Is it genuinely disarming? Is she still in the room to hear that, I wonder, after she said, I hate you?
I think it's really harsh on mums especially. Mums have this, I guess, dream of taking their daughters shopping and having cosy chats in coffee shops, and they build up this ideal of what it's going to be like when their daughter becomes a teenager, and often just this big do not disturb sign goes up on their wall, and mums start to wonder what went wrong and what they're doing wrong. And it's not always that they are doing something wrong, it's just part of their daughter growing up.
How does the treatment tend to vary between mum and dad?
Yeah, I think dads see their daughters as the whole return on investment. Let me explain that. They think it should be like a bank account that steadily progresses, and their daughters become teenagers, and they start seeing them chuck tantrums more than they did when they were 2 years old, and they just can't work it out. They're like, we've invested into you for 14 years now, and why are you behaving like this? But if dads can kind of slow down and realise it'll probably be a very short stint in their daughter's life, dads can play a huge role, and especially their daughters, I guess, self-esteem, just her feeling about herself. Girls adore their dads when their dads take the time to spend time with them.
Okay, I want to throw another one of those typical teenage daughter comments by you to get your suggestion. You don't trust me.
Okay, why don't you trust me? This is a huge one. When teenagers start the conversation with why don't you trust me, I say to mums, look, assume something's up. When they take the focus off what they're wanting to do, and they, yeah,
That's
and
interesting.
I call it manipulation strategy one, and they put the focus on the whole trust issue, parents should just sort of wise up a little bit and realise something's probably up. Trust is not something that should be a bargaining tool on the table. Just because they've blown out 13 candles doesn't mean that they're able to handle life all by themselves, despite what they think.
So the trust remark is a diversion. So the daughter is saying, I may or may not have done this, but
That's right.
you are
should
obligated to
trust
trust
me.
me even if I have done this.
That's right. And the amount of pressure teenagers can put on their parents simply by using that word trust is unbelievable. I look teenagers straight in the face and I'll say to them, their job's not to trust you right now. Their job's to protect you. So trust is off the table as a discussion point. Their job's to keep you safe.
Yeah. Sorry, I just was thinking as you're saying that's like that old ploy, when in a marriage or a partnership, if someone accuses the other person of infidelity, and say, "Have you been
it's a
unfaithful to
good
this
point,
person?"
Richard.
And if the unfaithful person says, "Why would you say that?"
That's
instead of
right.
denying it, that's the diversion.
That's really insightful. Yeah,
Thank
great
you,
point.
thank you for that. I'll take that on board. Thank you. So what is the correct response? You say trust isn't on the table here. Well, they say it is, don't they?
Yeah. Well, you just say, look, my role in your life is not to trust you at this stage. My primary role right now is to protect you. What I can't trust is that you have the capacity to make decisions like an adult will. The reasoning section of their brains is just not developed enough. So you can't expect teenagers to be mini adults. They're not mini adults. They're teenagers. There's a big difference between the two.
How about this one? I have nothing to wear. What about that?
When your daughter says, I have nothing to wear, she's saying to you she's not feeling comfortable with who she is right now, most of the time. When I go into teenagers' homes, they have a pile of clothes the size of Mount Everest. It's not that they don't have anything to wear. Normally, shopping and teenagers are really closely connected to how they feel about themselves. So it's kind of really important that mums and dads see taking their daughter shopping as a way of investing into their self-esteem. It's not a waste of money and it's not a waste of time. Every time they take them shopping, girls are actually learning something new about themselves, about their body shape, about who they are. It's a really important part of her growing up.
I'm speaking with Michelle Mitchell, the author of a book called What Teenage Girls Don't Tell Their Parents. Michelle, last week I interviewed Bob Connolly, the great Australian documentary maker, and he's made a really wonderful new documentary set in a girls' school in Sydney. And there's a wonderful moment where the music teacher's talking to one of the bad girls, one of the leaders of the group of bad girls, naughty girls. I mean,
the popular girls.
Kind of popular and charismatic.
Cool.
And afterwards, he says the thing is, talking to them one-on-one, these naughty girls clique, they're really quite lovely. They're fine. They're nice people, enough people. It's when the group dynamic kicks in, they become a little bit feral.
Absolutely. And if parents can think of it like a book with a cover and an inside story, what you see is not always what you get. And teenagers go to great lengths to look cool in front of their friends. They can wear a lot of their thoughts deeply buried inside them while they're trying to look cool in front of their friends. In my job, I've been privileged enough to get these kind of girls by themselves, and sometimes it takes up to an hour, but there's a point where their heart swings open and they really do have the opportunity to talk about what they're really thinking and feeling. It's quite a precious moment, and really that's what the book tries to capture.
Now, there's the issue of bullying. Now, this might be one of the things that your teenage daughter isn't telling you about because there's so much shame and anxiety that's wrapped in it. What are your thoughts on that, Michelle?
Teenagers are paranoid about their parents getting overly involved. What an adult would describe as bullying in a workplace, teenagers actually consider that very minor at school. And if parents hear what's going on in school in the sense of this bullying, teenagers are really scared their mums or their dads are going to get overly involved, go and march up to the principal's office and all the rest of it.
Which will be humiliating for them as well, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just because your teenage daughter tells you about something doesn't mean it's your job to fix it. So oftentimes parents get told like slight bits of stuff with bullying, and they get overly involved too quickly. I say just trust your kids a bit on this one. Realise that if they want you involved, you need to give them the opportunity and say, look, can I help you with this? Is there anything I can do to help you with this? Rather than jump in boots and all and do what you think is the best thing to do.
Yeah, that sounds pretty wise, I think. How about dads? Because, you know, one of the things that's really shocking when you have, I've got to do it, a little girl, is how deeply political girls get at such an early age.
Yeah.
And that's ramped up with all kinds of, you know, hormones and everything else that happens in the teenage girl as well. There's a lot of stuff that can be happening in a very subterranean way that a father will be completely oblivious to and can blunder into. I don't know, just you've got some advice for dads and teenage girls in general here, Michelle.
Yeah, look, I think if you show them how men should treat them, it's going to go a long way. Remember, like, it's not always what you say, it's what you do. And kids really pick up on their sense of value as a person by how they're treated. And dads that really do have that respect for even their mother, and it flows down to their daughters, their sense of themselves is very strong. So I think that's a really important point for dads to take the time to realise how important that really is.
I was talking to a co-worker some years ago here at the ABC who's quite a bit different from his daughter, to say the least, and it was going through the usual teenage daughter difficulties. And I was saying, how do you maintain contact with her, given that they culturally they're very different people?
Yes.
And he says, I ring her out of the blue every once in a while and tell her I love her, apropos to nothing at all. And he said, that seems to do the trick.
Avoidance, is that it?
No. He just rings her up, and out of rather than making the "I love you, my darling daughter" comment part of a larger discussion, he just presents it. Just rings
blatantly?
up and send her a text message, or just rings her up and just tells her I love her. And he doesn't want anything to come of it, other than that she should know that.
And that's wonderful. It's wonderful that dads can be that open and upright about that type of thing. It's amazing how many dads get quite put off. Look, their daughters are now not looking like children. And to tell a girl who's all of a sudden got a woman's shaped body and is dressing like she's 18, I hear dads say, look, I don't even know how to hug her anymore, let alone tell her I love her. I think dads really do sometimes struggle with that transition as their girls grow up and become women.
Yeah, it's a lovely process. At the end of it, there'll be there's a grown woman at the end of all this. That's the
yeah, that's right.
Thing,
hang on,
isn't there? Hang on there. Fantastic, great to speak with you, Michelle. Lots of very wise things I think you've said there. Thank you so much.
Thanks heaps, Richard.